You have made the same mistake again. Not once, not twice, again. And the worst part is not the mistake itself. The worst part is that moment right after, when you sit there and ask yourself the same question you have asked 100 times before. Why do I keep doing this? You already knew better. You already promised yourself it would be different. And still, here you are, back at the beginning, staring at the wreckage of another decision you cannot explain. Most people assume this is a character problem. They tell themselves they are lazy, undisciplined, broken in some fundamental way. That is the wrong diagnosis. And a wrong diagnosis leads to the wrong treatment every single time. What is actually happening inside you is not a moral failure. It is a war. A real, biological, neurological war that has been running inside your skull since the day you were born, and nobody ever told you it existed. Here is what nobody tells you. Your brain is not on your side. That sounds dramatic. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you will change the way you see every bad decision you have ever made, and more importantly, every good decision you have been unable to make. Inside your brain, 3 systems are competing for control of your behavior at every single moment of your life. The first is your prefrontal cortex. This is the part that makes you human in the truest sense. It plans, it reasons, it imagines consequences, it builds futures. When you set an alarm for 6 in the morning because you want to become someone who trains before work, that is your prefrontal cortex talking. When you write down a goal, when you commit to something, when you make a promise to yourself, that is this part of the brain. It is the part of you that wants more, that sees beyond today, that understands who you could become. The second system is your limbic system. This is ancient. This is the part of your brain that you share with every animal that has ever crawled, swum, or walked on this earth. It does not think. It does not plan. It does not care about who you could become. It cares about one thing only, keeping you alive right now, today, in this moment. Comfort, pleasure, safety, avoid pain, find food, rest when you can. That is its entire operating manual, and it has been running that manual successfully for hundreds of millions of years. The third system is your basal ganglia. This one is different. The basal ganglia do not compete in the same way. They store, they automate. Every habit you have ever built, every behavior you repeat without thinking, every pattern that runs on autopilot inside you, that is the basal ganglia at work. And here is why this matters more than most people realize. The basal ganglia do not distinguish between good habits and bad ones. They simply store what you repeat. They make automatic whatever you do consistently, which means that right now, today, your autopilot is running a program you wrote years ago, probably without any intention at all. When you act without intention, when you reach for your phone the moment you wake up, when you put off the difficult task until tomorrow, when you eat the thing you told yourself you would not eat, you are not failing. You are running a program. And you cannot delete a program by wanting to delete it. You have to write a new one. That is what reprogramming actually means, and that process is nothing like what most people imagine. Before I show you how that process works, I want you to sit with something uncomfortable for a moment. Think about the version of your life that is running right now, on autopilot, without interference. Where does it end? Not where you want it to end. Where does it actually end, based on the trajectory you are currently on? If nothing changes in the next 5 years, what does your life look like? Who are you? What do you have? What did you never become? Most people refuse to answer that question honestly, and that refusal is exactly why nothing changes. The brain has a mechanism that is simultaneously its greatest survival tool and your worst enemy when it comes to growth. Your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment and asking one question: is this working? Not is this good? Not is this aligned with my values or my goals or my potential? Simply, Is this keeping me alive? And if the answer is yes, if you are breathing and fed and sheltered, your nervous system stamps that situation as adaptive, as safe, as the thing to protect and repeat. This is why comfort is so dangerous. Not because comfort is wrong, but because your brain cannot tell the difference between a life that is safe and a life that is good. It will defend a mediocre existence with the same ferocity it would use to defend you from a predator, because to the primitive parts of your brain, they are the same threat. Change is danger. The unknown is danger. Growth, by definition, requires walking into territory your nervous system has never mapped, and your nervous system will fight you on that every single step of the way. This is not weakness. This is biology. And once you understand that, the self-loathing starts to dissolve because you realize you have not been fighting a character flaw. You have been fighting evolution. You have been fighting a system that was designed with one purpose and has been executing that purpose flawlessly. Your only problem is that its purpose and your purpose are no longer the same. So how do you change this? Not by motivation, not by inspiration, not by watching enough videos or reading enough books or making enough promises to yourself at midnight. Those things activate your prefrontal cortex for an hour, maybe a day, and then your limbic system pulls you back toward the familiar, toward the safe, toward the automated. Motivation is fuel. Fuel burns. And when it burns out, the old program comes back online. What you need is not a burst of energy. What you need is a new identity that your nervous system learns to defend instead of the old one. Here is the first real tool. The question you ask before you act. Not after. Before. Before every significant decision. Before every moment where you feel the pull toward the easy choice. Before every situation where you know the old pattern is about to run. You stop and you ask yourself one single question. How would the person I am becoming handle this? Not who you were yesterday, not who you wish you were. The person you are in the process of becoming. The one who already has the discipline you want. The one who already made the choices you keep putting off. How does that person handle this exact moment? This is not wishful thinking. This is a neurological intervention. When you ask that question consistently, you are activating your prefrontal cortex at the precise moment your limbic system is trying to hijack the decision. You are inserting a pause between stimulus and response. And in that pause, everything can change. Not immediately, not dramatically, but consistently, over time, that pause becomes the new default. That question becomes the new autopilot. But there is something you need to understand about building new patterns as an adult. And this is where most advice completely falls apart. Every piece of self-improvement content in the world is designed for someone who is already reasonably functional. Someone who has clarity, stability, decent habits, and just needs a small upgrade. But most people do not struggle with discipline because they lack information. They struggle because they are trying to build a new floor while the old one is on fire. They are attempting to create consistency in the middle of chaos, clarity in the middle of confusion, and strength in the middle of a life that their nervous system has already decided is the safe version. What does this mean practically? It means the order matters. You cannot build mental strength by adding new behaviors on top of unexamined old ones. The first step is not adding. The first step is clarifying. What do you actually value? Not what you think you should value. Not what sounds good when someone asks you. What do you actually organize your life around when no one is watching? Write it down. Not metaphorically. Physically write it down. Right now, today, after this. Get a piece of paper or open a notes app and write down the 5 things your current life is actually built around. The things your time and energy actually go toward. And then write down the 5 things you say you value. Compare the 2 lists. The gap between those 2 lists is your problem. Not your discipline, not your willpower, not your character. The gap is your problem. Because your basal ganglia, your autopilot, is faithfully executing the first list. and your prefrontal cortex is desperately trying to reach the second. Until those lists align, you will keep experiencing yourself as someone who says one thing and does another, which is not weakness. It is misalignment. Now here is the part that genuinely makes people uncomfortable, and I'm going to say it without softening it, because soft versions of hard truths are useless. You are going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, not occasionally, not when it is convenient, structurally, permanently, as a design principle of the life you are building. Your nervous system treats discomfort as a signal to retreat. Every time you feel resistance, every time something requires effort, every time a task feels hard or boring or frustrating, your limbic system interprets that sensation as danger and begins generating every possible reason to stop. I will do it tomorrow. I am not ready yet. I need to prepare more. I deserve a break. All of that is not laziness. That is your brain doing its job. The problem is that the job it is doing is keeping you small. The way you override this is not by eliminating discomfort. You cannot eliminate it. The way you override it is by systematically proving to your nervous system that discomfort does not kill you, that resistance is not danger, that the hard thing on the other side of the friction is where you actually want to live. You do this through exposure, deliberate, intentional, incremental exposure to the things your body wants to avoid. The difficult conversation you keep postponing, the work session you keep shortening, the morning routine you keep negotiating with yourself about, the physical training that always feels too hard to start. Each time you push through instead of retreating, you are sending a signal to your nervous system. This is survivable. This is safe. This is something we do now. And over time, the nervous system updates. Not quickly, not dramatically, but it updates. The resistance gets lighter. The friction decreases. What once felt like climbing a wall begins to feel like crossing a room. And that is not motivation. That is neurological adaptation. That is your brain literally rewiring itself around the behaviors you have proven you will repeat. But here is what the reprogramming process depends on above everything else, and almost no one talks about this clearly. You have to know where you are going. Not vaguely, not generally, specifically, because your prefrontal cortex, the human part of you, the part capable of growth and intention and design, operates on vision. It needs to see something ahead of it that is worth the cost of change. Without that vision, every moment of discomfort is just pain with no payoff. And your nervous system will not sustain that. It will not. It will route you back to comfort every single time. So you need a picture. A specific, visceral, emotionally real picture of who you are in the life you are building. Not a list of achievements. A person. How does that person start their day? How do they respond when something goes wrong? How do they treat their body? How do they speak? What decisions do they make without hesitation because those decisions are simply who they are? Build that picture with as much detail as you can hold in your mind. And then, every time you face a choice, come back to that picture. Not to motivate yourself, to orient yourself. That picture is not a dream. It is a direction. And a direction is all your prefrontal cortex needs to do its job. Now I want to address something that most people in this space refuse to say out loud because it makes people uncomfortable in a different way. There is a reason you have not changed yet, and it is not what you have been telling yourself. It is not that you lack the right information. It is not that you have not found the right system, or the right mentor, or the right moment. The reason you have not changed is that part of you, a part you may not even be conscious of, has decided that the cost of changing is higher than the cost of staying the same. That is not a moral failure. That is a calculation your nervous system is making on your behalf, often without your knowledge. But here is the thing about calculations. They are based on data. And if the data your nervous system is working with is incomplete, the calculation will be wrong. The data your nervous system has right now says that the life you are living is safe enough to protect. Your job is to give it new data, new experiences, new evidence that the life on the other side of the change is not only survivable, but worth surviving for. Every small act of discipline you complete, every moment you choose the hard thing over the easy thing, every time you close the gap between who you say you are and what you actually do, you are submitting new data. You are updating the calculation. You are, in the most literal neurological sense, reprogramming the machine. This is not a process that happens in a weekend. It does not happen in a month. It happens daily, in the small decisions that no one else can see, and that your future self will feel in every corner of the life you build. The person who trains when they do not want to. The person who does the work before they feel ready. The person who tells the truth when a comfortable lie is available. The person who plans instead of drifting. That person does not arrive one day as a finished product. That person is constructed, choice by choice, in exactly the moments you most want to walk away. The war inside your head is real. It will never fully stop. Your limbic system will always prefer comfort. Your basal ganglia will always defend the familiar. But your prefrontal cortex, that uniquely human part of you that can see past today, that can imagine a future worth building, that can ask what the person you are becoming would do, that part of you is not weaker than the primitive systems. It is just quieter, and your entire job is to make it louder. Not by force, not by punishment, not by shame or self-criticism or relentless pressure. You make it louder by using it, deliberately, consistently, every single day, in the decisions that seem small and the decisions that do not. You make the choice that belongs to the person you are building, even when the old version of you would have retreated. Especially then. The brain you have right now is not the brain you are stuck with. That is not a metaphor. That is neuroscience. The structure of your brain changes in response to how you use it. The connections you reinforce become stronger. The ones you stop using fade, which means that the person you are right now is not a fixed point. It is a draft, and you are the one holding the pen. So the question is not whether you are capable of this. You are. The question is whether you are willing to stop waiting for the moment when it will feel easy. Stop waiting for the version of yourself who is already disciplined to show up and take over, and start making the decision, today, in this moment, that belongs to the person you intend to become. That decision will feel uncomfortable. It will feel uncertain. It will feel like too much, on a day when you already have too much. Make it anyway, because on the other side of that discomfort is not just a better habit. On the other side is a different person. And that person has been waiting long enough.